You know, Rosie, when you go for a picnic, you want to take a lot of things. And you've got to take a loaf of bread, that's for sure. And you want to take some other things like some olives, some salami, some tomato, some cheese. And I thought to myself, Richo, why don't we put the two together and bake them together as one? Sort of like a pizza bread. Fantastic idea.
This is why I hang out with you, Richard.
Exactly.
Exactly why.
Cunning, that's what it is. Now, what you need to do is to start with, you need a good dough. So what I'm going to use is a good flour to make a good pizza dough, which is basically what you want to start with. So I've got 1.5 cups of plain flour, which is a really good, strong plain flour. And what I'm going to do is make a well in the centre of it here and add a tablespoon of yeast. Dried yeast, and that's going to make it all nice and tasty. I'm also going to add about a tablespoon of extra virgin olive oil for flavour. Also put a pinch of salt in there, about a teaspoon of salt, because you need to give it flavour as well. If you put too much salt, it will retard the yeast and stop it from rising up, so make sure you don't put too much in there. So I make a well in the centre, and what I do is I start pouring in some warm water. You need warm water. That will activate the yeast and get it living and get it all producing gas, so it rises up and becomes nice and fluffy. Stir it around like this with a wooden spoon until it comes together. And once it comes together, Rosie, what I'm going to do is pop it on the bench here and give it a bit of a knead. And you can see I've got a little bit of flour here. I always have a little bit of flour on the side just to dust it, and I'll just wipe that little bit of dough off. Now, it's a good idea to do it with your hands because you can actually get a good feeling for it, and the warmth of your hands helps to warm it all up. And by kneading it like this, you bring it all together nicely. Now, if it does get a little bit sticky, which this one is, I'll just sprinkle a little bit more flour onto it and then keep kneading it. What we're going to do is we're going to pop this into a bowl, cling film it, sit it aside for about 1.5 to 2 hours so it becomes nice and fluffy. In that time, we'll clean all this up, get all our ingredients ready, make sure our oven's on and nice and hot, and then we'll be able to put it all together. If you can pass me that bowl there in the cling film, we'll get it all in. We don't want to make any mess, or we don't want to make too much mess, so we can use the same bowl, Rosie. On goes the cling film like that. Now, all I need to do is pop it somewhere warm. What I used to do when I was a little boy, I'd pop it into my grandmother's bed because she had the electric blanket on and that was the perfect place to keep it. We won't be doing that now. Over the back, here it goes. All right, Rosie, have a look at that. You just take the cling film off like this. It's come up really well, isn't it?
Crazy's happened there.
It is. It's all sort of a bit sticky.
Yep.
And here's a little tip. This is what I do. Is have a little bit of flour on your side there. It's great, isn't it? And you can see a little bit of oil in there. I put a little bit of flour on my fingers and then I sort of just push my fingers down the side there like this. A pro. And it comes out really easily. That way you don't get sticky fingers. There we go. Pick it up like that.
Someone always rings the doorbell about this time, don't they?
There we go. Out it comes. There's a bowl for you. And what I'm going to do is just dust this just a little bit. I don't want too much flour on here, but what I'm going to do is just fold it under here like this so it becomes nice and shiny on top. You can see it's starting to stick up nicely. There we go.
Lovely.
And stretch it a bit on the top there. Look at that. That's going to be lovely.
Beautiful.
Now, what I'm going to do is cook it in a pan to go into the oven. I've got this little pan here. I'm going to throw that into the middle. And the trick is with this is put a little bit of olive oil in the bottom because you want it to fry a little bit. There's no chance of it sticking, but I want it to fry a little bit and give it a nice little crunchy bottom. And what I'm going to do with this, Rosie, is I push it out like this all the way to the side, and you can see the dough has risen up nicely, and it's really soft the way it spreads out.
Great.
Now, I know that this will come up quite a lot, so all the ingredients will sort of go all the way through to the middle. Now, as a pizza, we've got everything ready. We've got all our favourite things. We've got a little bit of tomato passata.
Lovely.
Spread that around the outside of it like that. It looks good, doesn't it?
That looks great.
Now, what sort of pizza do you like to have, Rosie?
Me, I'm just a classic margarita. But do it proper. Let's get the San Marzano tomatoes, the buffalo mozzarella.
Nice, I like that.
Oh, yeah, big time.
You got to put prawns on it for me. Prawns and salami, the two things. I'll either have prawn salami with a bit of rocket on it and some garlic and some chilli, or I'll have a salami with olives and anchovy. They're my favourite pizzas.
It's a bit over the top, really.
A little bit over the top. Now, you're going to put the basil and the olives on there.
Yeah,
if you can do that for me, because you were just standing there looking around. You've got to help out a little bit. This is a all-together, all-included sort of picnic, isn't it?
Just relaxing already, ready for my picnic. Bye.
Oh, there we go. Now, the salami goes on the top of it like that. I sort of push it down a little bit. There we go. And what I do is put a little bit more tomato passata on the top, a little bit more cheese on the outside, and that will help melt through. Now, this is going to go into the oven oven and I'll preset the oven for 200 degrees Celsius. I know this will take about 25 to 30 minutes to cook, and what I want to do is make sure it's cooked. It's not like a pizza where it's really thin crust. It's more like a bread dough or focaccia, so it's going to take a little bit longer to cook all the way through the middle. So what you want to do is test it in the middle. When you get a little bit of a knock on the bottom, or you see it's nice and bready, spins around nice and easily, that's when you know it's cooked. This is going to go into the oven and cook up nicely. In we go, Rosie. Have a look at that, Rosie. That's a good-looking pizza bread, isn't it? There we go.
That
Out
is
it comes.
a big boy, isn't it?
We're just going to cut straight into it now. So it's going to be gooey and cheesy and cooked all the way through. Look at that.
It's really a bit of a deep pan, isn't it? This is
oh, look at that.
Quite thick.
It is quite thick, and you can see the bread through there.
Yeah.
Cooked all the way through, and really cheesy on the inside. I'm just going to cut a little wedge of that one. And here we go. Oh, that's really gooey and cheesy. I'll open that up there, and I'm just going to go a little piece off the front here.
Have a little try. That does look steaming hot.
It looks fantastic.
Next time I have to get you to make me a margarita, I think.
Well, the beauty of this is it's a pizza loaf that you can feed a lot of people. A little wedge of this with some other cheese and, you know, maybe a bottle of wine or something would be fantastic.
It's great. It's very impressive and from scratch. That's the great thing, and that's the bit that feels really good. Gone to pizza heaven. Some of your favourite things on there. Don't worry, I'll just talk for you. It's fine.
That's really good, Rosie.
Yeah.